What's up, guys? Papa Jack here, and I am joined by Paul, and we're going to talk about his experiences with the course, with the coaching, and just generally his time in Korea. There is nothing specific planned for this, and so we'll just kind of see how this interview goes. We'll see where it takes us. Could be interesting, could be boring, probably not. But we'll find out soon, won't we?
Yeah, we will.
All right, so Paul, would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself? You can be as open or as private as you feel is appropriate.
Sure.
Entirely up to you.
So my name is Paul, obviously. I come from Norway. I met Jack now a year and a half ago. I used to be this insecure gamer nerd who was sitting at home playing video games most of my day. And just came out of a relationship. She dumped me. She was Korean. And I was like, fuck it, I'm going back. Now I want to do this right. So I started Googling. And eventually I ended up with Jack stuff. So
now, slight point of clarification. When you first messaged me.
Yeah. She, in her head, she had broken up.
Right, but
Not
you...
being very direct about it.
Right.
So being that typical Korean, not being direct about anything.
Right, sure.
So I was still in like, okay, what the hell is going on?
Yeah.
So you helped me a lot with clarifying that.
Yes.
And I came here and within 2 weeks it was like, yeah, fuck this shit.
Yeah. So when you first contacted me, you told me, so I'm in a relationship with this girl, and she lives in Korea right now, and I live in Norway, and I haven't seen her in 6 months, and we haven't spoken in a month or two. Do you think everything is okay? And I was like, well, no. Right? Like, this... I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but with what you've brought me, no, you are not together anymore. And in fact, you're not going to like to hear this, but you should probably mentally prepare yourself for the fact that she may well be dating someone else when you arrive here in 2 weeks.
Yeah. Luckily, that did not happen. We went out a couple times, but yeah, let's just say it didn't work.
So how did that go, right? Like, how was... from when you first contacted me to when you landed to when you actually met up with her, how was your mindset throughout all that, and how did the actual meetups go?
So when I contacted you, that was mostly because I desperately wanted it to work.
Right.
I really liked this girl.
Yeah.
And then you kind of flipped the switch in my head that I was kind of had to prepare for the worst case scenario.
Yeah.
So I said, fuck it, then I'll prepare for the worst case scenario. I started studying your stuff. I went through literally everything you had in 4 months.
Yeah.
I came out here, and at first we didn't meet. The first 2 weeks, I think we met once. And that was ice cold. I was like, okay, what should we do? So I remember the first time I was supposed to meet her, we were supposed to go get coffee. I came early and she hadn't said where I should meet her, just around my area. So I texted her and said, hey, we were supposed to meet at 3. I am outside your apartment, on the street, of course, some boundaries. And she blew up in my face. And I'm like, okay, I used to live in this apartment for 6 months, what's the problem?
Yeah.
So kind of getting the hint already there. We went, had a coffee, she was completely ice cold the whole time, no indication whatsoever. And I went home kind of upset.
Mm-hmm.
So I went drinking. With you.
That's always a good solution.
Yes. And then we met up a couple times after that. Last time I saw her was a month and a half after I arrived in Korea.
Mm-hmm.
And then she started demanding things. If she was going to date me, she was going to meet my friends. So she was going to meet you, Caesar, Dano, those guys. And I kind of started realizing she might be a little bit of a narcissist.
Mm-hmm.
Because at that point, I was basically backfeeding all my messages, or the whole conversation through Caesar, who helped me a lot to kind of keep things to the point and not let my emotions get the hand of me. So then we are like, in conclusion, in the end, she's just a giant narcissist and okay, just fuck it.
Mhm.
But at that point, I've already started doing your stuff. So I was already dating other people. I had, just in that month, I think I had 5-6 dates in the month prior to this.
So in the first month after landing?
Yeah, and I had, I think, 3 one-night stands in the same time. And then from there on out...
Cheers to that. That's a pretty successful first month, no matter how you slice it.
That's true. And then things going quite well. I'm kind of getting the handle of this, going out on dates, getting them from date to bed every single time. So I start developing my routine, both here in Hongdae, which we are spending most of our time, but also in areas like Shinsa, where I like to take... It's basically, if I want wine that day, that's where I take them. And then it started working out, and then Halloween came and went, Korea opened up, and girls became a lot more on. So in November, I went on 23 different first dates.
That's an impressive memory. I mean, an impressive number, yes.
Yes.
But I'm like, I don't remember last Wednesday, much less November.
And then some of those fell through, and there was a lot of trial and error and trying to perfect the routine into everything going my way. But by the end of November, I had gotten things down and did 6 girls in a week. And by doing 6 girls in a week, we're not doing 6 dates. We're doing 6 dates and taking them home.
Right.
And then that's also when I met my current girlfriend. And then I started like handpicking the people I wanted to keep around.
Sure.
So I kind of built up a harem of 4-5 girls at the time. And like just rotated those mostly every week. And if I got bored, I changed one and then tried to find a new one for December. So my record in December was 14 days in a row without sleeping with the same girl. And yes, I pray to God my girlfriend doesn't see this ever.
I mean, unless she joins my course or follows me on Twitter or something, right? Like, there's no way she's gonna see this.
Yeah, and then that went, and then January came, and we became exclusive, and since then it's been pretty good. So now she's been with me in Norway for the past 3.5 months, and now I'm back here in Korea with her.
So, from the beginning, so this journey, when did this journey begin? Right, like when was the first time you contacted me?
This journey began in end of June.
Okay, so at the end of June, we had lonely pro gamer sitting at home thinking he still had a girlfriend when he absolutely did not. And then by the end of November, we have a player so powerful that he is out there able to pick his pussy at will literally every single night of the week.
Yeah. It was a giant transformation.
What so obviously my courses have a lot of different material in them because different things work for different people.
Yes.
What worked the most for you? What hit home for you?
There were specifically 2 things, or I'll sum it down to 3 things, which is the things that was most significant. First is mentality.
Yeah.
So you have to be congruent to yourself. You have to be your own person and stay true to that one person. And you go in a lot on that in your course. Rich did a lot of that in his course.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, everything goes down to, mentality. And then, other than that, of course, the date routine stuff, how to manage and deal with logistics, bad logistics, just setting up your dates so that it always ends well.
Sure.
And the last thing that was kind of the kicker, that it's a combination of 2 things. It was when I did the approach workshop with you in person. There we spent a weekend just mass approaching everyone on the street, like literally harassing as many people as we can. I think the day where you had me walk around with a unicorn horn on my head, which lights up, hitting on girls in the street, that kind of got rid of all my insecurities about talking to people ever again.
Yeah.
And that, and at the same time being a part of this community here, right? Because that's what we are. We are a community of guys here.
Can we turn the screen back off somehow? Is there a power button on it? Or?
It's just kicked out of sleep mode, hasn't it? Some
Okay, yeah, that...
Oh, yeah, that does it.
Beautiful!
Yeah.
Okay, good. Sorry, let's keep going. So, the community.
Yeah, so the community around here centers around you, of course. But very fast, you get into that community, you make friends. And, okay, Jack is busy, someone else is out drinking with you. You're always around hyper-social people, which brought me used to be a super introvert. When I came back to Norway this time, no one recognizes me because I'm a completely different person.
Sure.
Because after spending so much time around you guys and the community, your social level in general elevates.
Yeah.
You become a lot more social, you become more outward. I remember the first few weeks, like I'd been hanging out with you 3-4 times a week, I was dead. I had to sleep for 4 days just to recover. But the longer that dragged out, the shorter the rest periods get. And then it was like, yeah, now I'm out drinking with you guys 5 days a week, and the other 2 I'm doing dates.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because at this point, I want to meet people.
Right.
I need to talk to people every day. And then, yeah, I think that's history.
Welcome to the curse of the extrovert. Cheers.
So, yeah, and that combined with the workshop made me so confident in myself and talking to people, and that I want to talk to you, I'm going to go talk to you.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, that's the goal, isn't it? Right? To not have any fear, because why be afraid? Right?
Exactly.
Which sounds, to somebody who's never done it before, right? So if I was talking to Paul before any of this happened,
oh, I'd be terrified.
right, then if I just told you, yeah, whenever you see someone you're interested in, just go up and talk to them, you'd be like, well, no, that's not a thing, right? You can't just do that.
You can't just flip that switch.
Right. And it's like, well,
You kind of can.
yeah, I mean, you can. It definitely does help to have someone
Push you.
not just pushing you, but there to. I think that one of the biggest benefits that guys get out of the boot camp weekend is that there's always a bit of a safety net. Do you know what I mean? Because I do make you look like an idiot and say stupid things, because whenever you turn something onto hard mode, then all of a sudden normal becomes very, very easy, right? And so you get pushed out there into ridiculous situations, and it breaks any anxiety you have. But at the same time, when you're out there doing that approach, even though you know it's going to fail, you still do it anyway, and you still know that afterwards you come back to me and I'm like, okay, that was a solid attempt. Now, let's try and work on your body language here, because you walked up with your hands in your pockets or something, right? Like whatever it is.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, good. I know that I'm going to get positive, constructive reinforcement and keep learning how to do this.
Yeah, so I remember especially one episode from that weekend, which was where you said I did everything right, so it must have been either they were not interested or I have to work on what I say. That's when you pointed out, so we do this thing where I approach whoever Jack points out, and Jack approaches anyone I point at.
Yeah, just trading back and forth.
So Jack points out these 2 stunningly hot girls.
That's my style.
Walking in pier. And like, you go talk to them. Okay. So I put on, they walked past us when you did that. So I had to run around, like run down the street and then approach them from the front, of course. And then I get them, I make them stop for 2-3 minutes, talk to them, and then they're okay, we gotta get on with our day. Sure. But at that point, Jack goes, okay, your body language was correct, you made them stop, you seemed to have them engaged for a while, and then something didn't fit, and then they left off. Okay, so then, now I gotta work on what works. What can I say, how can I play this interaction to make sure I get their number? And then that developed into, okay, now I kind of like, okay, I want your number.
Yeah, right. Well, and for a lot of people, that's the hardest hurdle to get past, is I'm going to tell you what I want.
Yeah.
Because it feels like, if I walk up to someone and I just talk to them and they're not interested, then okay, they're just not interested.
Yeah.
But it's not quite as big a rejection to me as if I say, I like your style and I want to get to know you better. Put your number in my phone and I'll message you later. And then if she's like, oh, no, that's no thanks, right? Then that feels
That's a harder
scary.
rejection.
It is.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if you don't do that, you're never going to get any numbers, right? Like,
Yeah.
there's never going to be a girl who's like, so I have to get on with my day, but are you going to ask me for my number or what? Right? Like, that doesn't happen.
Yeah. Then if you get to that point, you're also toast.
Yeah.
You need to get to the point.
Yeah.
And I remember this one time I was going to a friend's birthday party in the bar. At this point, I've gotten quite into picking up girls. So this is probably beginning of November, I think.
Sure.
And she goes, this is my number 2, aka my best friend here in Korea. She is off limits. Yay! Mission accepted.
Yeah, yeah.
So then the whole night became about getting this girl.
Sure.
And of course you did. Like, Korea is a place where making out in public is very difficult.
Yeah.
And a lot of girls definitely do not approve that.
Yeah.
So when I was standing in the middle of the bar making out with her in front of her best friend, who told me she was off limits, and then getting her phone number, then I was like, okay, mission complete.
Yeah.
I've done my job. Of course, she has a boyfriend, and when she's sober again tomorrow, that's not going to happen.
Sure.
So after that, her friends threw her in the taxi.
Because they didn't want the bad decisions to snowball,
Yeah, yeah.
right? Which
So-
they definitely would have.
Yeah. So I talked to her the next day, and she explained the situation. I was like, okay, fine, no problem.
Yeah.
Hit me up if it doesn't work,
Yeah.
right?
That's right. I
So-
mean, diamonds are forever, but boyfriends sure aren't.
Exactly. So yeah, that's kind of how that went.
Okay.
And yeah, I think all of that comes down to that workshop specifically, where you just had me go ham.
Yeah.
And I'll spare a funny detail from that workshop. So
Sure.
on day 2, you had me wearing this unicorn hat, and the day had gone pretty bad. We didn't get much we didn't get any real things
Yeah.
going. So at the end of the day, we're like, it's almost closing. Let's just go hit up RGB and see what happens. And this girl comes out and see the fucking unicorn hat and just goes up to me, kissed me already, and then we went home. So I had her running around my apartment with a fucking unicorn that lights up.
The good news about going out and actually knowing what you're doing is that even on bad days, right? Because you can't control the weather. You can't control who's going to be out.
Yeah.
You can't control what mood they're in, what kind of restrictions the government is going to put on you, anything like that.
Yeah.
You can't control any of that. But when you have the right skill set, then the opportunity presents itself and you don't freeze up.
Yeah.
And you don't fuck it up. And you don't over talk.
Yeah.
You see it and you know what to do. Your training kicks in and you take it.
Yeah, exactly. And then I had one other episode where I, after this episode that I'm going to explain, I kind of went back to your courses and okay, I got to redo this because I need to know how to get out of this situation. So I was at a bar and one of my friends comes over to me because she knows I know what I'm doing at this point. So I have a friend here who's on a date, but she brought her friend. Can you wingman him? Sure. I'll go wingman that shit. And we get pretty far on, but I can't seem to get her out of the bar.
Okay.
And then the other guy fucks up.
Ah, right.
And then I end up taking the morning train home together with them,
Okay.
and she passes out on the train. So her friend's like, no, I'm taking her home.
Right.
And I'm like, for fuck's sake.
Yeah, yeah.
But
Yeah. Well, and that's another thing that you can't control for,
Yeah.
which is other guys in this situation. Or just other people in general, right? Because we've all been cock-blocked by girls as well as guys,
Yeah.
right? It doesn't matter. But were you able to find help inside the course of
Yes.
what to do?
I definitely found a lot of help in the videos about bouncing bar to bar.
Yeah.
So then that became my strategy for meeting people in bars in general. Yeah, so other than that, my main strategy was online. So it was Bumble. I ended up making a killer profile, which just blew up soul.
Yeah.
And literally could schedule dates every single day for an entire month without a problem.
Sure.
And did that and had a fuck ton of fun with it.
Mm-hmm.
And that was an experience beyond anything.
Mm-hmm.
So at this point I was working 5 hours a day, then I had class 5 hours a day,
Mm-hmm.
and then I did dates near my place in weekdays, and I did dates everywhere else on weekends.
Busy boy.
Yes, it was a busy life. But it was really, really fun doing that for a month.
I can imagine so, yeah.
And it just, when you first get into this, you get this huge confidence boost.
Yeah.
And that just builds you up and makes you crave more. I think that if it hadn't been for getting the ball rolling, it would never have led me to like actually deciding, okay, I'm not just gonna, okay, this girl wants to stick around, I'm not just gonna keep her.
Right.
I'm still gonna build a group of girls that I can rotate around how I want.
So that you can make your choice rather than
Yeah, and then I decide,
hoping that they make the choice you want.
yeah, and then you have multiple choices, and in the end, if you're doing things right, all of them sticks around.
Yeah.
And then eventually I figured out, okay, this girl might be for real, so I'll keep her around and decided to make her my girlfriend.
Yeah. Well, now, I'm curious. So, when you came to this course, you were in a transition period, perhaps in denial, but you knew that you were going to need help on whatever the situation was, right? Now, you decided to go with this towards the far extreme of super slutty, right?
Yeah.
And what about somebody who doesn't want to? What about someone who's interested in trying to find like the right girlfriend now? Would you say that any of this stuff is worthwhile?
Yes. So I would still say the approach I took is still the right one, even if you want the right girlfriend right now.
Mm-hmm.
Because without dating a lot of people and meeting, especially not necessarily dating, but at least meeting a lot of people,
Right.
you're gonna have no idea what is actually the right girl.
Mm-hmm.
For every single of these girls that I dated or hooked up with, I always found something that was an absolute no-no for a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
So I just kept adding that to my list.
Right.
Because I made the list.
Yeah.
So I made a list of, okay, must-haves, nice-to-haves, and absolutely don't-haves.
Mm-hmm.
And for every time I find traits that was either must-have or nice-to-have or absolutely fuck no, I wrote them down, memorized the list over again, so I knew how to look for these as I was going about it.
Right.
So you faster filter out girls that you know, okay, this can be fun for a day or two, but it's never gonna last.
Right.
Because I'm gonna strangle this girl in 3 months.
Sure.
And that way you kind of hone your skills too, because you get more. Your sight. When you start this process, your sight is like this, and then the more girls you date, you kind of close off into what is your idea of the perfect girl.
Right.
And when you
And so it makes it much easier to just filter out all the other bullshit.
Then you filter out everything else, and
Yeah.
you end up with, okay, this is the group of girls that I can date long term,
Yeah.
and then eventually they're there.
Right. Yeah, this is one of the things that I talk about a lot in my videos is I talk about filtering out and filtering in. And it doesn't make a lot of sense to guys who haven't dated much because they're like, well, any girl who pays attention to me and is willing to touch my boner is filtered in, right? Like, which I definitely understand, right? Because I've been there as well, right? We both have at different times in our lives.
Yeah.
But once you start meeting people and you realize, oh, wait a minute, I actually have quite a lot to offer. I should be a lot pickier lest I end up with a really bad relationship that I'm stuck in for the rest of my life, like so many people do.
Yeah, and then, so that's the one thing, right? And dating a lot of girls, you come into the situation, at least I came into the situation where I have a lot of girls that wants to just hook up. They know this isn't anything other than just booty calls.
Yeah, yeah.
And I had especially one girl, so I had a date scheduled for Friday, and I had been with her the night before, and she came back to my place like 2 hours before going on my date, banged it out, she left, I go on my date, and while I'm on the train, I've told her, like, I have a date, so you have to be in and out in an hour. Yeah, sure, fine. She comes, we bang it out, she leaves, and then I'm on my way to my date, and she texts me, call me if the date goes bad. And then it's like, yeah, okay, perfect.
Sure.
Then now I have a sure thing,
Yeah.
no matter how this shit goes.
Yeah.
But I still want to bang this new girl.
Yeah. No, obviously.
So you go for it.
Yeah. So
And that night
sorry,
I got
go on.
saved by the taxi.
you got saved by the taxi. What do you mean?
So this was here in Hongda.
Mm-hmm.
I think the curfew was 11 or midnight.
Okay.
And no, it was in December. So it has to be 11 or midnight.
Yeah.
But it was impossible to get a taxi.
Yeah. It sounds right.
So I was like, yeah, sure, let's get a beer. Let's just go up to my room. We can just enjoy the view, have a beer and chat.
Mm-hmm. Until a taxi.
Yeah,
Obviously.
until you get the taxi.
Obviously.
So first she was like, yeah, okay. And then she was very persistent that we were not going to bang.
Oh, yeah, of course.
So first she like gave me a blowjob. Perfect. I'm happy. She still doesn't get a taxi. I said, okay, fuck it, let's fuck. Then we bang it out like for an hour or so, and that's like, okay. And she went to the shower, whatever. And then she comes out, okay. Oh, now I got a taxi.
Oh, how convenient, right? Like, it's perfect. It's perfect.
Yeah, and she still wanted to meet up again later.
Sure. Yeah.
And I've never had a girl get pissed on me because I said, okay, I'm sorry, like we had a date scheduled for Saturday, and me and my current girlfriend decided to get exclusive on Friday.
Mm-hmm.
And I text this girl, hey, so I'm now in an exclusive relationship, so I can't go out with you tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
And she flipped on me.
Because she wanted some more of that D.
Exactly, and I was like,
You know, the number
is
one cause
awesome.
of coronavirus infection is a lack of vitamin D.
but yeah.
Do not take medical advice from dating consultants.
Yeah, so that's how that ended up. But yeah, I have can attribute a lot of it to the course. Because the course gave me something very practical to do in every situation. Okay, you struggle with meeting girls. Okay, then you do this. You start trying to just talk to one girl. When you talk to one girl, okay, now I can talk to another. So even though after the weekend we had, I made it a rule that I was going to approach one person on the street every day.
Mm-hmm.
It was not about anything sexual in that sense. It was just, I'm going to talk to one new person every day.
Mm-hmm.
And for guys starting out, it can be very difficult to go up to the hot girl and start talking with her.
Sure.
Okay, then you can start chatting up with a random dude.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. It's just getting over the fear of talking to someone new.
Right.
And then and then when you feel comfortable with talking to other guys, then you start talking to the fat chick. Right? Talk to someone that you have no interest in, except just talking to.
Mm-hmm.
Because that lowers your mental barrier for talking to someone new anyway.
Yeah.
And then you work you there, and then you say you started with a 4, then next time, okay, now 4s are okay, then
Sure.
start trying with 6.
Yeah.
And then you start trying with 6s.
Yeah.
And then you go for 8s, and then all of a sudden you realize that 8s never come alone, so then, okay, let's go for 6s that are in pairs.
Mm-hmm.
So then you start, because then you have to do group approaches and talk to multiple girls, and then you work your way up.
Sure.
So, and then when you do these group approaches, you learn it, okay, there are different things you need to be aware of. And you go through that too, like when you approach a group, there's always one that is the boss.
Mm-hmm.
And unless you can't satisfy the boss, you're not getting anywhere.
Sure.
So then you learn, okay, maybe the boss is not the one I like, but it's her I got entertained.
Mm-hmm.
And then you work your way through that. And then with the other things like the dates, like you go through what to look for. To see, okay, is she ready? Is she interested at all? And then you can it's kind of very, at least for me, it became very like almost mathematical.
Sure.
Like I can do this, and then that results in this.
Were the types at all helpful for that?
Oh yeah, for sure. It was very easy to figure out what types of dates the different types of girls needed.
Mm-hmm.
But in the end, I was just like, yeah, I know the types that I'm dating.
Right.
All of them fits into my normal routines.
Mm-hmm.
So unless I'm going out on a whim and because this girl is really hot or something like that,
Sure.
I stick to my routine because routine works.
Yeah.
And then once it takes a while to kind of figure out your routine, and it takes a lot of dates to figure out your routine because you have to start and you have to see what works and
Yeah.
which bars work, because I took them to the arcade a couple times.
Yeah.
Because I realized in the first bar that this girl is not necessarily about drinking, okay, let's go have some fun instead, because I've missed it, but she's a worker bee, so she needs to just get as far away from her world as possible.
Right.
So you just, okay, let's go to the arcade, play some games, and then all of a sudden you're back at the hotel and you're having fun.
Yeah, and she's back to work doing a different kind of job.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Now I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this up here in a minute, but before that, just to make sure, because the way that you've been talking and the things that you've been saying, these sound like a guy who is just a natural born player. Just, from inside his mother's womb, he was out there like tipping his cigar and being like, "Hey baby, how you doing?" Right? But is that who you've always been, or have you always just been this?
No, for sure not. So I was a guy that I jumped from long-term relationship to long-term relationship. When I met you, the last time I went on a date was actually not even with the girl I thought I was still dating when I took contact with you. That was not my last date, because we weren't really on a date. Like, we were like, I met her on Tinder in airport in Europe, and she was in Korea and I was in Norway, and I was going to Korea anyway at some point. And then me and my cousin was here in Korea. And we were like, yeah, we can just...
Oh God, I thought for a second your last date was with your cousin.
No.
Okay.
But on that trip, I went on a date with one other girl.
Okay.
And that was the last date I ever had.
So the last
and
date
before that,
before you had
never.
When you met me, the last date before that had been a couple of years?
2 years.
Wow.
And before that, and so that was the first online date I had been on in 4 or 5 years before that.
Wow.
I think if I sum it up, I took out girls on a first date in the past 10 years. I had 2 first dates.
Before meeting me. Obviously not the last year.
Not the last
right?
year, but the 10 years before that,
right.
there were 2 first dates.
Wow.
Because before that, I just came out of a long-term relationship for 4 years. And then I was in a very big dark hole. And then
right.
I kind of met this girl through family. So we started dating, but we never really had a first date.
Right.
Like, our first date was Netflix and chill.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
And then that became a 4-year relationship. And then after that, I dated one girl. And then I had the one date with the girl in Korea. And then...
So, safe to say, not a natural otherwise.
Not at all.
Yeah. Okay.
I was better at it in high school. Because then I was more social.
Sure.
But some experiences I had in high school gave me social anxiety.
Sure.
So for a lot of years, I struggled just talking to people. So at the point where you met me, I was like, okay, my social anxiety is over. But I'm still very introverted.
Yeah.
And for those of you who have ever tried taking an MBTI test, I was 83% introvert. Yeah, that's pretty bad.
I'm the opposite of that. If
yeah.
you can't tell.
Yeah. So the funny thing now is that if I take it now, I score 60% extrovert.
Right.
Because all of this has changed who I am.
Sure.
And I like myself better for it. So even if I didn't have the experience of meeting that many girls and dating that much, it still brought me to a complete other level where even my friends and family back in Norway almost didn't recognize the person I was when I came on.
In a good way.
In a good way, because I was so much more outgoing, open and talking, and it was amazing. Excellent.
I'm so proud of you and your success. I mean that sincerely. Cheers.
Cheers to that.
And if I don't know, is there anything else that you want to say before we end this, or?
Well, if you've gotten here and you've watched this interview, you're probably already thinking about it. Well, you have the money back guarantee, so why not just take the jump and try? Most likely you're gonna end up being mind blown anyway, and worst case, you watch the first month of stuff and you get the refund, and okay, this wasn't for me. Because yeah, of course, it takes a little bit to take Jack.
No doubt.
Jack's a lot.
And I'm not for everyone. That's
exactly what I mean.
Yeah.
Jack is not for everyone. But if you ignore who Jack is, what he says, and just listen to what he says, you will actually be very well off.
It cuts deep, but it is true.
Yeah,
I
I
get-
understand it can be very scary for a super introvert to reach out to you in the first place.
Sure.
I reached out of desperation,
Yeah.
and I am so thankful for it today.
Yeah. It turns out I don't bite.
Yeah.
Too hard.
And now I'm back here over a year later,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm sitting here.
A regular member of the community.
Yeah.
Good friends, genuine friends. This
Yeah.
is like this isn't a client business relationship at all.
No.
We're just friends now.
Yeah, and it's like
Just
yeah.
like with everyone else in the community, you
So
know.
we're shooting this now. It's 24 hours since I landed in Korea,
Yep.
and Jack went, "Okay, I have Tuesday off. Let's just hang out and do."
Yeah, let's just hang out. Welcome back.
Yeah. So yeah, here I am.
All right, well, and with that, I think we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. Paul,
Yeah.
dude, thanks for doing this with me. I really
Of course.
appreciate it. And for you guys out there, like he said, if you're thinking about it, if you're not sure, if you're still on the fence after hearing him and his transformation, I don't know what else to tell you, man. Take the leap. You got the money back guarantee, but you're not going to need it because it's going to change your life. I'll probably see you inside the course. Papa Jack out.